somebody could be like, it happened to me the other day. I just couldn't get here, and so I called Mr. Hawkins and let him know, and so that was just a cancellation because of traffic and all of this stuff. But because if you start working on it and the person's en route, then they don't get the benefit of getting the information from the meeting. You understand what I'm saying? So it just has to be real clear communication. If somebody's en route, then you don't probably need to do anything. So I don't know. I don't know how specific we have to get with the policy, but
yeah, and I'm not sure we need to go into that level of details, opposed to maybe just explaining that there needs to be service provided in order to get the day of service compensation.
Because if somebody is in the route and you have the time, just wait and just complete the meeting.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Any other discussions on that?
Okay, so then we'll bring back the revisions that we talked about here. And then it looked like the other question or comment that you had related to the travel policy and what happens if your travel ends up being delayed. Maybe you have a delayed flight or additional traffic, and how the compensation is for that. And I wasn't sure, was the concern if it was less than 4 hours or if it was more than 4 hours?
I'm not sure. I think what the policy states now currently that you get a day of service for travel if you're traveling 4 hours or more. Correct. So less than that, it's pretty clear.
Correct.
And that I think if you're, I guess that includes your going and coming, that you may end up getting 1 day of service if you do a total of like 4.5 or 5 hours of travel. So I mean, things happen, people get delayed in traffic, but it still shouldn't.
It's the actual time. So, one concern was, what if it would normally take you an hour to get to San Francisco, for instance, but let's say the freeway ended up being closed and it took you 4.5 hours, then you would get the day of service because it's whatever it actually took you to get there. So if your flight was delayed, your flight was maybe only supposed to be an hour, but it ended up being 4.5 because you sat in the airport, it would still count as a day of service.
Well, for me, it's still part of the travel. Things happen, they come up. So that's, if we're wording it as it takes you that amount of time to travel, that's what it took you to travel, regardless of whether it was you went straight through or there were circumstances that had you hanging out there for 7 hours.
That's correct.
Yeah, but because even if you go to LA and it's only a very 1 hour flight, you have to be there like one and a half hour before, and in the meantime that you have to pick up your stuff, most of the time is 4 hours. But
so the policy already covers that issue. It's just whether you wanted to make any other revisions to it.
I think if you have a situation, what might be necessary to add is that if you have a situation where you have been delayed for travel that is, for example, it's normally a 2-hour travel, and it ended up taking you 5 hours to get someplace, and you need to bring it to the board with the circumstances.
I think you were already covered. So as you pointed out, if it was normally 2 hours and it actually took you 5, you would get a day of service. I don't think that needs to go to the board at all.
Oh, okay.
The way it's worded, I feel very comfortable that's
okay. Time to take let's see.
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair, yes. Where were we? All right, we're back on.
Okay, so as it relates to that concern under the travel policy, I think that's already covered, and you would get your day of service if it, for some reason, took you longer than normally expected, because it's just actual time it took you to travel. So I don't think there needs to be a change in the policy to cover that issue. But we would do the changes that were discussed as it relates to day of service compensation. And if there's anything else you'd like, we'll just bring that back to you at the next meeting.
Okay, Madam Chair, I just passed out a memo. I wanted to give a status report on the MOU with the city. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to be able to do an MOU with the city. And as you know, it's been 2 years since we started, and obviously, and then like I had a scheduled special meeting for this month that got canceled, and I couldn't get a new date. And so my final conversation with Mr. James was that, well, if you don't, if you can't give me a date, then obviously, this probably needs to be put on hold until you can come up with something.
Is there a way that the city manager can assign one of his staff people to work with you, like the public works director or something?
Well, we've tried a lot of those different things, but unfortunately, see, it's been 2 years now.
Well, with a couple of questions.
We've had an agreement ready to go to the council for at least almost a year and a half.
Yeah, I remember.
And so obviously now, the idea behind this was that we would actually be coordinating, working on projects together. But if we can't get the document done, then that doesn't say anything about implementing the term. And so I think it would be better, we'd be better served if we just go ahead and say it didn't work. And then when you get to a point where you would like to do it, let us know. Because we really just sort of spit in the wind at this point.
So we would just have to have patience with the city that are kind of short-staffed and
Yeah.
city managers take it on.
Yeah, well, I can understand that probably they don't feel like they have the resources to facilitate an agreement. Maybe that's it. But the reality is that we have to be realistic about it and just say, well, we do have some things we really do need to do. But if you're not able to go through this process, then we would go ahead and not do this now. And when you feel like you're in a position, you have some extra staff, and you want to do it, we could go back and do it.
Yeah, the other alternative is, we could actually meet with city council folks in a joint meeting and get them to exert some will to make this happen as well. I think that's worked historically.
Yeah. Well,
getting things done at the city.
That has happened before.
Well, that should be the way it goes. As long as if the direction comes from the policymaker, then obviously that carries a lot more pressure to get something done than if it's just between the administrators. But right now, it's been 2 years.
So I feel your frustration.
Yeah.
I feel your
So
frustration.
there's really not a lot you can do with that.
Well, yes,
So
again.
at this point, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please. Ms. Johnson, please. Savage, please.
That's,
Really? You're not speaking?
no, I just, no, go ahead.
All right, Director Mitchell?
Yeah, so still, it's a last resort. We still might want to have a meeting with one of their committees
Yeah.
to discuss this quickly and see if they can kind of help get this through at the MOU.
Yeah. Well, I'm in total agreement with that.
But I'm sensitive to your
Yeah.
frustration. I am.
Yeah.
I understand.
Unfortunately,